A landlord I know did everything right: credit check, proof of employment, previous landlord reference, government ID. Everything came back clean. And then something happened that made him realize he had missed something so obvious, so simple, that it took less than 5 minutes to do. And he had never once thought to do it. By the end of this video, you will never screen a tenant the same way again. I've worked with hundreds of property owners, investors, first-time landlords, and people who live in the same building as their tenant. Today, I'm walking you through the real story of what happened to one of those landlords, what he missed, what it cost him, not just financially, but in terms of his family's peace of mind. And the exact checklist I now give every investor I work with before they hand over a single key. And I'm going to give you that checklist for free at the end of this video. Before I do, if you are new here and you own rental property in Alberta, or you are thinking about buying your first income property, subscribe right now. Hit the bell. I post every week and I cover the things your bank and your real estate agent are probably not telling you. All right, let's get into it. So here's what happened. A landlord, someone I know personally, someone I respect, owns a rental property. He's not a rookie. He's done this before. He understands the process. When a vacancy came up, he ran a proper application. He wasn't just taking the first person who called. He pulled a credit report, clean, good score, no collections, no previous evictions, no history of rental dispute, nothing. He verified income. The applicant was professionally employed, stable job, consistent pay. He called the previous landlord, no complaint. The tenancy had ended on good terms. He checked government issue ID, everything matched, photo, name, date of birth, all confirmed. On paper, this was a model applicant. So he signed the list, handed over the keys, and for the first few weeks, everything was fine. Rent came on time, no noise complaints, no damage, the kind of tenancy every landlord wants. And then something shifted. He started noticing unusual activity around the property, unfamiliar vehicles, visitors he didn't recognize coming and going at odd hours, nothing he could point to directly, nothing that was a clear violation, just a feeling and an ease he couldn't fully explain. He reached out to his tenant about it. The explanation he got back didn't sit right. It was vague, a little too casual for something that had made him uncomfortable enough to ask. He noted it, filed it away, but then something else happened that he couldn't ignore. A piece of information reached him through a source he wasn't expecting. That caused him to do something he had never done during the application process. He Googled his tenant's name, and what he found sitting there in plain search result, publicly available to anyone who looked, was information linking his tenant to a serious criminal investigation. Not historical, not a past conviction that had been served, an active case, ongoing proceedings, with court date already scheduled. This information had been accessible the entire time, before the application, before the lease signing, before keys changed hands. Now, before I tell you what the checklist looked like, I want to be honest about something, because when this landlord told me his story, my first instinct was not to judge him. My first instinct was, I've seen this exact gap in landlord after landlord, and the reason it exists is straightforward. When most of us screen tenants, we are asking one question: can this person pay? We look at credit score, income, employment stability, rental history, evictions, bankruptcy, everything in that framework looks backward at financial behavior. And for most tenancies, that is the risk to manage. Someone loses a job, a marriage falls apart, medical bills pile up, the rent stop coming. Those are real risks, and you should absolutely screen for them. But they are not the only risks, because a person can have a spotless credit score, a stable salary, and a clean rental history, and still represent a category of risk that no financial check will ever catch. The question most landlords forget to ask is not just, can this person pay? It's, who is this person? And the answer to that question is often sitting right there on the internet, free, public, and completely ignored, because we never thought to look. And a lot of people are going through this situation right now because of the market, the abundance of rental inventory, rent dropping. People are desperate to fill their unit. In a moment, I'm going to give you the full checklist, every step, including the one that takes 4 minutes and changes everything. But first, I need to tell you what happens legally when you find yourself in a situation like this, because this is where most landlords make their second mistake. Right. Here's the reality, and I want you to hear this clearly because it matters. When this landlord found out what he found out, his first instinct was, I need to get them out now. I understand that completely, but here's what the law says in Alberta and across Canada. A charge is not a conviction. You cannot evict a tenant, and in many cases, you cannot refuse to rent to someone solely because they are facing criminal allegations. They have not been found guilty of anything. The legal presumption of innocence until proven otherwise. And if you attempt to remove a tenant on that basis alone without a documented lease violation, you are the one who could face a complaint before the Residential Tenancy Dispute Resolution Service. Most of these tenants are expert. They are well informed, so they know how to make things life tough for you. So there's also something broader to understand. Even when someone has a past criminal conviction, in many situations, using that as a reason to deny housing can constitute discrimination under the Alberta Human Rights Act. People are entitled to shelter. So yeah, unfortunately, that is the law. I know that might be frustrating to hear, but understanding it protects you. So, what do you actually do when you suspect something is wrong, but you have no documented lease violation to act on it, especially in this situation that I have shared? You do three things: you monitor, you document, and you wait for a breach. Because here is the thing: the lease and the Alberta Residential Tenancies Act give landlords more room or more ground to act on than most people realize. If something happens on or around that property that violates the agreement, let's say unauthorized occupants, illegal activity on the premises, property damage, non-payment of rent, smoking where it's prohibited, that triggers a clear documented process you can act on. Any false or misleading statement a tenant makes to you, especially in writing, in a text message or email, is a documented misrepresentation. You want to keep everything, you want to screenshot, you want to date. That material can matter to a lawyer when you need to put that across. This landlord is handling it the right way. He's watching, he's documenting, he's not escalating prematurely, he's consulting legal counsel before taking any action. And that's exactly the right approach, especially in this situation. Okay, here is the checklist, the full 7-step system, including the 4-minute step that most landlords have never done once, and the 2 lease clauses that give you legal ground to act if something goes wrong. Most landlords cover what I call the financial layer: credit score, income verification, employment confirmation, rental history, previous evictions, bankruptcy check. That is the floor, non-negotiable. You want to do all of that, but it is not enough on its own. Here is what you add on top of those. Step one, you want to Google them. You full legal name, add a city, search the first 3 pages of the Google result, look for news articles, court records, public social media content. This takes 4 minutes. 4 minutes, that's all you need. In this landlord situation, that search would have returned publicly available information about an active legal matter before a single document was signed. We skip this step because we are not suspicious people. We assume the worst risk is financial. We don't think about who the person is. But now start thinking about who the person is. Step two, you want to check Alberta courts online. Go to albertacourts.ca. Civil matter searches are publicly accessible. Add this to your standard process. It takes 3 minutes after Google search, social media search to do these steps. Yeah, that's step three. You want to request a criminal record check, make it a condition of tenancy, an RCMP criminal record check dated within 90 days, submitted before occupancy. Most legitimate applicants accept this without hesitation. Pay attention to the ones who push back hard on it. In this market, people may think this is too much of an extra step, but yeah, it can help. Step four, add a criminal disclosure declaration to your application form. A signed written statement that the applicant is not currently subject to any pending criminal proceedings. It's not just a formality. If an applicant signs this and it is later found to be false, that is documented misrepresentation, and that is a leverage for a lawyer. And that matters a lot. That can help you out of a situation like this. Step five, call the previous landlord independently. Do not rely only on the phone number the applicant provides. Search the property address yourself. Find the actual owner or management company independently and call that number directly. When you speak to them, go beyond did they pay on time? Ask, were there ever police visits to the property? Frequent visitors you were uncomfortable with? Anything that made you hesitate before you answer? Did you give them a good reference? Will you run to them again without any reservations? How they answer that last question tells you a lot. So that is a better way of checking past landlord reference. Step 6, verify the employer directly. Call the company's main publicly listed number, not the number the applicant gave you. Confirm that this person works there and has been employed for the tenure they claim. That takes 2 minutes or less. And step 7, if you are owner-occupier, that is, you live in the same building as your tenant, add security cameras, full coverage at every entry and exit point, timestamp enable, cloud backup, and position at least one camera to capture license plates in the driveway and on the street in front of the property or at the back where you can capture the vehicles. Because if a situation ever escalates, that footage is not just useful, it can be the difference between having evidence and having nothing. I have a full written version of this checklist, all 7 steps, the reference questions to ask, the list clauses to add, and the Alberta legal resources you need if something goes wrong. It is in the link in the description. Download it, it's free. Use it before you hand over the next key. So from this lesson, here's what I want you to take away from this story. This landlord did not make careless mistake. He made a careful mistake. He was thorough within the system. He knew he did everything his checklist told him to do. The problem was not his diligence. The problem was that his checklist had a gap. And when I talked to him about it, he said something that has stayed with me. He said, Conrad, I came to this country and I thought this is a different kind of place. I was focused on whether people could pay. I never imagined I needed to look beyond that. I understand that more than most people might expect because I'm an immigrant to Canada too, and I've been here for 22 years. So when you build a life in a new country, there's a kind of trust that comes with that. I believe that you are in a place where the worst risk is someone who falls behind on rent and not something more complicated than that. That trust is not naive. It's actually one of the things that made Canada worth coming to. But trust and a system are 2 different things. Trust is what you bring to the relationship. A system is what protects you before the relationship begins. This landlord is going to be okay. He's handling this the right way. As I shared already, he has the right people around him. But he will never sign another lease without running the Google search, social media search, and all of the steps I have laid out here. And after today, neither will you, and neither should you. If you own a property in Calgary or anywhere in Alberta and you want to make sure your screening process had no gaps, the checklist is in the description downloaded. It's the same document I now walk every investor client through before they accept any application. And if you are thinking about buying your first income property or you want to understand what your financial options actually look like before you start searching, reach out to me and we'll be able to help you. The link to book a call with me is also in the description. So here's what I want you to do right now before you leave. Drop a comment below with the word system. Just that one word. If this video made you realize there was a gap in how you screen, write system in the comment. Because I want to know how many landlords are watching this and recognizing themselves in this story. And that one word tells me everything. Share this with one landlord you know, not because it's a great video, because it might save them from a situation they never saw coming. And don't forget to like and subscribe. And as I said, share with others. I'll see you in the next one.